Do you know what happens to places that no one visits anymore? That's how Jenna asked the question that would ruin the rest of our lives. It was late August, the last breath of summer before school would drag us back into the fluorescent halls and endless lectures. The five of us, Jenna, Tyler, Marcus, Lily, and me, were restless, too old for playgrounds, too young for bars. That's when Jenna told us about it. The abandoned carnival. Everyone in our town had heard of it, whispered about it, even dared each other to go. The old Ferris wheel still stood behind the treeline, its rusted frame visible from the highway, like the skeletal remains of something that had once been alive. They said the carnival had shut down after the accident, though no one ever agreed on what that meant. Some said the roller coaster derailed. Others claimed a fire swallowed the funhouse whole. The stories blurred together into something half-forgotten, like a nightmare you couldn't quite recall. But one thing was certain, no one had set foot inside in decades. Or so we thought. Tyler was the first to scoff. So, what? We sneak into some junkyard with broken rides and get tetanus. Cool plan. But Jenna smirked, eyes glittering in the fading light. You don't get it. It's not dead. My cousin swears he went there last summer. The rides still work. The music still plays. Like it's waiting. Marcus rolled his eyes, but I noticed the way Lily shifted uncomfortably beside him, her arms crossed tight. She was always the quiet one, the one who believed the ghost stories more than she let on. Waiting for what? I asked. Jenna's smile widened. For us. We found it just after midnight. The path through the woods was overgrown, but the closer we got, the clearer it became, as if something still maintained it, kept it from vanishing entirely. The trees thinned out, and then we saw it. The carnival. It rose up before us like a dream half buried in rot. The Ferris wheel turned slowly, groaning against the wind though no one was on it. Strings of colored bulbs flickered across food stalls, their wires sagging with rust but glowing all the same. Faded banners snapped weakly in the breeze, painted with clowns whose smiles seemed a little too wide in the shadows. And then there was the smell. Not of decay, like we expected, but of popcorn, warm, buttery, impossibly fresh. Holy shit, Marcus whispered. It's real. Lily's hand brushed mine, trembling. We shouldn't be here. But Jenna was already walking toward the entrance. Toward the ticket booth. It was still there, a squat little structure with peeling paint and a glass window smeared from decades of dust. But when Jenna pressed her face to it, she gasped. There's someone inside. We crowded around her, and sure enough, behind the glass sat a figure. A man, or at least the shape of one. He wore a faded carnival uniform, his head bowed as if asleep. Then he moved. Slowly, jerkily, his head lifted. His face was hidden in shadow, but when he spoke, the sound was like rusted hinges groaning open. 5 tickets. We froze. Tyler forced a laugh. Yeah, right. That's hilarious. Who's paying you to stand out here at 3 a.m, dude? The figure didn't answer. Instead, his hand slid forward, pale and thin, pressing a strip of paper tickets against the glass. And that's when we saw them. Each ticket already had a name printed on it. Jenna. Tyler. Marcus. Lily. And mine. The paper stuck there against the glass, fluttering faintly in the breeze, our names gleaming in red ink. The man behind the window leaned closer. I still couldn't see his face, but I could feel his grin. Admit one, he rasped. For a long moment, none of us moved. The forest was silent behind us, the carnival alive in front of us, and those tickets, those cursed little slips of paper pressed against the glass with our names already on them. My throat tightened as if the ink itself were reaching out and coiling around me. How could it know? Tyler broke the silence first. He stepped forward, snatched the strip of tickets from the glass, and laughed nervously. Cute. Real cute. Somebody's messing with us. He turned, holding them up like proof of his own courage. See? Printed. Probably some creepy printer back there. Just a scare tactic. But his voice cracked near the end, betraying what he really felt. Jenna plucked her ticket from the strip, running her thumb over her name. It's fresh. Like, the ink isn't even smudged. She glanced at the booth window again, but the figure inside was gone. The stool was empty, the shadows undisturbed, as though he'd never been there at all. Lily whispered, "Don't take them." "Don't," but it was too late. Tyler shoved the tickets into our hands, one by one. The paper felt warm. Not the way it should after sitting in an abandoned booth all these years, but warm like skin. The moment mine touched my palm, a shiver ran through me. I swear I felt a pulse, faint but undeniable, like the ticket itself had a heartbeat. Marcus tried to laugh it off. "Okay, we got our props. Haunted Carnival, check. Let's take some pictures, freak out TikTok, and go home." He pocketed his ticket with forced bravado, but I saw the way his jaw clenched tight. Jenna wasn't satisfied. She was staring at the arched gates ahead, where two iron doors stood half open, their bars twisted into the shapes of grinning faces. Beyond them, the midway stretched wide and bright, alive with flickering neon lights and shadows that moved like they had somewhere to be. "Guys," she said softly, almost reverently. "We have to go in." "No," Lily hissed. She had backed several steps away from the booth, her eyes darting nervously between the forest and the glowing carnival beyond. "We take one picture, then we go. Please. This is wrong. All of it's wrong." But Jenna was already walking forward, ticket in hand, as though pulled by invisible strings. She didn't even glance back when the iron gates creaked open at her approach, groaning like a beast disturbed from its slumber. Tyler jogged to catch up. "Hell yeah. I've been waiting all summer for something actually fun." Marcus hesitated only a second before following. He muttered under his breath, "This is so stupid," but he didn't stop. That left Lily and me. She was pale, her hands trembling at her sides, eyes shimmering in the carnival's glow. I leaned toward her. "We don't have to go in," I whispered. But the words felt weak, hollow. Because deep down, something inside me wanted to go. Not out of curiosity, not out of bravery, but out of need. That damn ticket in my hand, it was tugging at me, pulling me forward, as if my name printed on it bound me to the place. Lily shook her head. "You don't understand. I've dreamed about this place since I was a kid." The lights, the music, her eyes brimmed with tears. And in the dream, I never came out. A chill lanced through me. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because if I said it out loud, it would come true." Before I could answer, Jenna called from inside the gates, her voice echoing across the midway. "You coming or not?" The music started then. It was faint at first, drifting out of unseen speakers, a warped calliope tune, cheerful and wrong at the same time. The kind of melody meant to make children laugh, but slowed just enough to set your teeth on edge. The air itself seemed to vibrate with it, pulling us forward. Lily's grip tightened on my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Please," she whispered. "Don't step through." But I was already moving, ticket clutched tight, as if my body didn't belong to me anymore. The gate swallowed me whole. Inside, the carnival stretched out like a dream frozen in time. The midway was lined with food stalls and game booths, their colors faded but glowing under strands of light bulbs that blinked erratically overhead. The air smelled of sugar and smoke, popcorn and something metallic lurking underneath. And there were sounds. Whispers threading through the music, laughter carried on the wind, the faint grind of machinery deeper in the park. Tyler was already at the nearest stall, grinning like a kid. No way. Look, cotton candy. Sure enough, behind the counter sat a cone of pink sugar floss, fresh and fluffy, as if it had just been spun. No vendor, no machinery, just a treat waiting for him. He grabbed it without hesitation and took a bite. Still good, he mumbled through sticky teeth, his smile widening. Still perfect. Marcus scoffed. I'm not eating ghost food. But Jenna was entranced. She spun in place, staring at the rides beyond, the Ferris wheel slowly turning, the carousel glowing with painted horses frozen in mid-gallop, the roller coaster tracks stretching high into the dark. It's like it never closed. Like it's all still alive. Because it is, Lily muttered, her voice shaking. It's alive, and it doesn't want us to leave. None of us responded, because just then the ticket in my hand grew hot. I gasped, dropping it instinctively. But instead of falling, the ticket floated in the air before me. Then it ripped itself into two neat halves, admit one, before vanishing in a shower of sparks. I looked around wildly. Tyler's, Marcus's, and Jenna's tickets did the same, dissolving in flashes of light. Lily hadn't dropped hers. She was clutching it to her chest, her eyes wide with horror. And her ticket wasn't burning. It was glowing brighter, brighter, until the light from it lit her face in stark, unnatural contrast. The others didn't seem to notice. They were staring at the rides, mesmerized. But I heard it. A voice, whispering from the glow of Lily's ticket, so faint only I seemed to catch it. One of you doesn't belong. The words clung to me like a spider's web, one of you doesn't belong. I wanted to shout, to tell the others what I'd heard, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. The whisper had stolen the air from my lungs, leaving only a heavy, suffocating dread. The midway stretched wider before us, alive with strange, uneven light. The bulbs overhead popped and flickered, humming with electricity that shouldn't exist. The Ferris wheel creaked in slow, steady rotations, its cabins rocking though no wind stirred. The music, the cursed calliope tune, shifted pitch as we moved, like it was following us, changing to suit our steps. Jenna was the first to move again. The carousel, she breathed, eyes locked on the glowing platform ahead. We have to see it. The carousel sat in the center of the midway, surrounded by cracked pavement and overgrown weeds that somehow hadn't dared to crawl onto the ride itself. Its horses gleamed with fresh paint, eyes glassy, their carved mouths frozen in wild, toothy grins. Mirrors lined the inner column, though their surfaces were clouded and warped, reflecting not our movements but faint shapes that hovered just behind us. Tyler, still chewing on the cotton candy, grinned. Now this is sick. Imagine the footage. Haunted-ass carnival, fully working rides. We're going viral. Marcus hesitated. His hand brushed his pocket where the ticket had dissolved. Wait. How are these rides even running? There's no power out here. No grid. No generators. Ghost power, Tyler mocked in a low voice, then stepped onto the platform. The boards creaked under his weight, but the ride did not falter. The carousel continued turning, music box tones winding from unseen pipes. Lily stayed frozen at the edge, her ticket glowing faintly in her hand. She hadn't said a word since the whisper, but her trembling was louder than anything she could have spoken. Jenna stepped up beside Tyler, brushing dust from a horse's saddle. They're beautiful, she whispered, almost reverent. She swung a leg over and mounted the horse, her smile strange, stretched too wide. It feels real. Marcus groaned. Fine. But if one of these things bucks me off, I'm suing. He climbed onto another horse, gripping the pole like it might come alive beneath him. The carousel slowed to a halt, the lights flickering once, twice, before glowing brighter than ever. Then the music changed. It wasn't cheerful anymore. The pipes groaned and hissed, exhaling a dirge that crawled under the skin. The carousel jolted, shuddered, and began to spin again, faster than before. Tyler whooped with laughter, riding his horse like a rodeo bull. "Hell yeah! Look at this!" But Jenna wasn't laughing. She was staring straight ahead, her eyes glazed, her mouth moving silently. I stepped closer and realized she was whispering to the horse. Her lips brushed its ear like she was confiding a secret. "Jenna?" I called, but my voice was drowned by the grinding of gears, the shrill piping of the organ. Her eyes snapped to me. For a heartbeat, they weren't her eyes at all. They were dark, empty sockets, reflecting nothing but endless black. Then she blinked, and they were hers again. I staggered back. Marcus shouted, "It's going too fast." He tried to climb down, but the pole he clung to had twisted, its golden paint flaking away to reveal something wet and sinewy beneath. He yanked his hand back with a cry of disgust, clutching his palm. The mirrors along the inner column flickered, and in them, I saw us, not as we were, but as something else. Shapes hunched and deformed, grinning with mouths too wide, eyes bulging with hunger. Each reflection twisted our features until I couldn't tell which monster belonged to which friend. "Stop the ride!" I yelled, scanning for controls. But there was nothing, no panel, no switch, no operator. The carousel had chosen its riders, and now it spun them faster and faster. Then Lily screamed. She was still on the ground, clutching her glowing ticket, but her reflection was caught in one of the mirrors. Unlike the others, her reflection didn't distort. It was her, plain and exact, except her mirrored self was pounding on the glass, mouth open in a soundless plea. The carousel shuddered again, the horses jerking violently as if trying to throw their riders. Tyler laughed even harder, thinking it was part of the thrill, until his horse's painted mouth began to move. The jaw cracked open, wood splintering, and I heard a guttural growl rise from deep inside the hollow body. "Tyler, get off!" I screamed. But the ride wouldn't let him. The golden pole was fused to his hands now, his skin blistering against the heat of it. He howled in pain, thrashing, but the horse clamped its teeth shut around his leg. Blood soaked the painted grin, dripping down its porcelain jaw. The ride screeched louder, the mirrors shaking, the reflections pounding to get out. And then, all at once, it stopped. Silence slammed down so heavy it made my ears ring. The lights dimmed to a faint glow, the horses frozen mid-snap, their painted eyes staring outward. Tyler lay slumped against his mount, pale and gasping, his leg mangled. Marcus slid from his seat, retching in the dirt, his face gray. Jenna slid gracefully from her horse as if nothing had happened. She turned toward me with that strange, too wide smile and whispered, "It chose." Her eyes flicked to Lily, who still stood trembling at the edge, her ticket glowing brighter than ever. The silence that followed the carousel's sudden stop was worse than the chaos that had come before. It was heavy, like a thick blanket thrown over the midway, smothering every sound until even our own breathing felt wrong, too loud, too fragile. Tyler whimpered from where he lay on the carousel horse, clutching his mangled leg. The air reeked of copper and rot, though no blood should have smelled so strong, so thick. Marcus stumbled toward him, torn between helping and fleeing, his face pale as bone. But it was Jenna who broke the stillness. She stepped lightly from the carousel platform, her posture loose, her smile calm, as though she'd simply gotten off a merry-go-round at a county fair. The faint glow of the carnival lights reflected in her eyes, and for one horrible instant, I thought they were glowing too. "It chose," she repeated softly, almost like a lullaby, her gaze darting toward Lily. Lily shook her head violently, clutching her ticket to her chest as if it were a shield. "No. No, it's not me. I don't belong here." Her voice cracked, echoing louder than it should in the dead air. Jenna tilted her head, her smile widening just slightly. "That's the problem." I felt my stomach twist, bile rising. The words the carousel had whispered to me earlier, "One of you doesn't belong," came crashing back. Had it meant Lily all along? Or was it Jenna, now speaking with a voice that didn't feel like hers anymore? I wanted to tell them, to share what I'd heard, but something held me back. The whisper hadn't been meant for them. It had been meant for me. "Help me, please," Tyler's voice dragged our attention back. He tried to pull his leg free, but the horse's teeth had clamped down with grotesque determination. The ride was silent now, lifeless, but the jaws wouldn't loosen. The wood looked more like bone up close, its edges sunk into his flesh. Marcus grabbed hold and pulled, gagging as the teeth scraped against tendon. With one final wrench, the leg tore free. Tyler screamed, collapsing into Marcus's arms, sobbing incoherently. I wanted to help. I wanted to scream. But before I could move, the music began again. Not the carousel this time. This was different. The sound rose from across the midway, faint but clear, slow, playful notes, like a lullaby being played on cracked glass. Each tone rattled against my skull, drawing my gaze toward the looming facade of the House of Mirrors. The building hadn't been there before. I would have sworn it. But now it stood tall and warped at the edge of the midway, its arched entryway glowing with pale light. The exterior was jagged, like someone had built it from shards of broken windows. A crooked sign above the entrance swayed in the breeze that wasn't there, letters painted in red. "See your truest self." Jenna's laugh was soft, brittle. "It's calling us." "No," I said, finally finding my voice. "We're not going in there." But the air around us shifted. It was almost imperceptible, like the gravity of the carnival itself was changing. The midway tilted beneath our feet, the flickering bulbs above bending their glow toward the mirror house. Even Tyler, whimpering in pain, lifted his head as if something unseen had hooked him, pulling him toward the light. Lily clutched my arm, her nails biting deep into my skin. "We can't," she whispered. "If we go in there, we won't come out. Don't you feel it?" I did. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to turn back. But Marcus was already moving, half carrying, half dragging Tyler toward the entrance. "If there's anyone, or anything, in there that can help, we don't have a choice." "No one's in there," I muttered, but my feet betrayed me. They moved anyway, step after step toward that glowing maw. Inside, the temperature dropped. My breath clouded in the air as we stepped onto the polished floor. Mirrors stretched in every direction, infinitely tall, their surfaces warped and foggy like the water on the lake had been. The reflections flickered with our movements, but not in perfect time. A hand would linger longer than it should, a shadow would move a fraction too late. Tyler moaned, his voice echoing strangely, bouncing back at us in distorted pitches. "It hurts, it hurts." Marcus cursed under his breath, tightening his grip. The reflections of his arms showed him holding nothing, walking alone. In another, it was Tyler dragging him, their roles reversed. Jenna's reflection was the worst. In every mirror, her smile stretched wider, splitting her cheeks, until her face was nothing but teeth. She seemed fascinated by it, running her fingers over the glass, tracing the outline of her warped grin. "Beautiful," she whispered. Lily pressed closer against me, shaking so violently I thought her bones might rattle loose. Her reflection was strange, too, but not monstrous. In some pains, she simply wasn't there. She'd vanish, leaving only the rest of us, like she'd been erased from the world. Then came the whisper. The same one that had spoken to me at the carousel, but louder now, crawling out from every mirror at once. "One of you doesn't belong. One of you is the key. One of you will open the way." The words reverberated through the glass, through our bones, through the marrow of the carnival itself. The mirrors rippled, and in their surfaces, shapes stirred. Figures pressed closer, pressing their hands and faces against the other side of the glass. They looked like us, but wrong, skin sagging, eyes clouded, mouths dripping with black tar. Our reflections were alive. And they wanted out. Tyler screamed as his reflection suddenly pounded against the mirror beside him, teeth gnashing, eyes bulging with hunger. Marcus nearly dropped him, jerking back, but the reflection didn't fade. It grinned at us, lips peeling back to reveal Tyler's own mangled leg clamped in its mouth, chewing slowly. I grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her toward the only exit I could see, the far end of the maze, glowing faintly red. Jenna didn't move. She stayed by her mirrors, laughing, whispering back to them like they were old friends. The whisper followed us as we ran, louder and louder, the words hammering into my skull until I couldn't think straight. One of you doesn't belong. One of you is already mine. And then Lily tripped. Her ticket flew from her hand, skittering across the polished floor. It landed against a mirror, and the reflection inside bent down, picked it up, and held it to the glass like an invitation. The mirror smiled. The air inside the mirror house was thick, buzzing with a static that prickled my skin. Every step we took seemed amplified, like the floorboards weren't solid but hollow, carrying our movements to something listening beneath us. I dragged Lily to her feet, her eyes wild, locked on the mirror where her ticket had vanished. Because it hadn't simply fallen inside. The reflection had stolen it. The glass warped and rippled, like water trembling on the surface of a pond. The reflection of Lily, pale, blank-eyed, almost skeletal, pressed her own ticket against the inside of the glass, mocking her. The reflection smiled, then mouthed words I couldn't hear but could somehow understand. You shouldn't be here. Jenna laughed from behind us, the sound splintering and echoing around the chamber until I couldn't tell where she really was. It knows, she said softly, her reflection's teeth stretching wider and wider, splitting its head in half. It knows which one of us doesn't belong. You can't lie to it. Marcus cursed under his breath, adjusting his grip on Tyler, whose face had gone gray. He was bleeding badly now, leaving streaks of red on the mirrored floor as they moved. His reflection in the nearest pane showed him already dead, eyes rolled back, tongue lolling from his mouth like a grotesque puppet. Keep moving, Marcus barked, but even he couldn't hide the tremor in his voice. The whisper came again, but stronger now. Not just inside my head. It slithered out of every mirror, layered and overlapping, like hundreds of voices stacked on top of one another. One of you doesn't belong. One of you is already mine. The words rattled the mirrors so violently they began to crack. Jagged lines tore across the glass like lightning bolts, spreading from one reflection to the next. Pieces fell, shattering at our feet, but what lay beyond the shards wasn't empty. There was space behind them. Movement. And then, one by one, the reflections stepped out. The first was Tyler's. It oozed through the crack in the glass like tar squeezing through a net, reforming into his shape with sickening pops of bone and sinew. But its eyes weren't Tyler's. They were empty, black holes that swallowed the dim carnival light. The reflection limped forward on a mangled leg, grinning wide, holding its bloody ticket like a trophy. Marcus froze, his breath hitching. For a moment he couldn't move, staring at his best friend doubled and ruined. Then the reflection lunged, its jaws snapping. Marcus barely shoved Tyler aside in time, the creature's teeth clamping down on his arm. Blood sprayed against the mirrors, and the sound that left Marcus's throat was raw and human in a way that made me want to vomit. Run! I screamed, pulling Lily toward the glowing exit at the far end of the maze. My voice ricocheted endlessly, overlapping itself until it sounded like dozens of me were all screaming at once. But Jenna didn't run. She was still standing by her reflection, smiling. Her double's mouth split wider, then wider still, until it was nothing but a gaping pit lined with teeth. When the glass finally shattered completely, Jenna's reflection stepped out and wrapped its long arms around her. And instead of screaming, Jenna whispered, "Take me." The reflection pulled her back through the glass like water, and then both were gone. Lily sobbed, choking, stumbling as I dragged her. The mirrors on either side exploded outward, glass raining down like daggers. From every shard, something crawled through, our twisted doubles, hungry and relentless. They moved wrong, jerky and fluid at the same time, like marionettes with invisible strings. They clutched their tickets in claws that weren't quite hands, shoving them forward as if the paper itself were proof of ownership. They already belonged to me, the whisper roared. But you don't. Lily tripped again, collapsing hard on her knees. She clutched her head, screaming, I can hear them. I can hear what they want. What are they saying? I demanded, hauling her up. Her face went pale as death. They don't want me. They never did. The words sank into me like ice. All this time, the carousel, the whispers, Jenna's mocking laughter, it had been about her. Lily was the one who didn't belong. But what did that mean? Didn't belong to the group? Didn't belong to the carnival? Or didn't belong to this world at all? Before I could ask, Marcus staggered toward us, blood pouring from his arm. He shoved Tyler into my grip, his face twisted in pain and fury. Get him out. Get Lily out. Just go. Behind him, his reflection loomed. It looked almost identical, except its mouth had been sewn shut, thick black threads crisscrossing its lips. Still, muffled laughter spilled out from behind the stitches as it reached for him. Marcus slammed his shoulder into the nearest mirror, shattering it into thousands of shards. The reflection stumbled, but dozens more stepped through, surrounding him. He fought like a man possessed, fists pounding, blood spraying, screams tearing through the air. I couldn't watch. If I did, I'd freeze, and we'd all die here. Clutching Tyler's half-conscious body, I pulled Lily with me and stumbled toward the exit. The mirrors shook harder, rattling in their frames, threatening to collapse the whole maze. The glowing red light grew brighter, closer, our only hope. But as we neared the exit, a final mirror loomed before us, taller than the rest, its surface black and rippling like oil. There was no reflection inside. No warped version of us. Only darkness. And from that darkness, a hand reached out. Not monstrous. Not skeletal. Human. Small, pale fingers curled through the glass, reaching toward Lily. She froze, trembling, her lips parting in a silent cry. That's me, she whispered. And for the first time, I realized she was right. The hand reaching for her wasn't a reflection. It was her own hand. Another Lily was inside the mirror, eyes wide, desperate, pounding against the glass as though she'd been trapped there all along. The carnival hadn't stolen her ticket. It had stolen her. The mirror's surface pulsed like a living thing, each ripple spreading outward as though the glass itself were breathing. The pale hand clawing its way toward us trembled with frantic urgency, nails scraping against the surface with a sound that pierced my skull. Lily stared, her entire body locked in place, tears streaming freely now. Her other self, the trapped Lily, was pounding with both fists, her face contorted with terror, mouthing words we couldn't hear but could almost feel. It was like her pleas bypassed sound and went straight into my bones. No, 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 Lily whispered, her voice cracking into a broken sob. That's me. That's me in there. Tyler stirred weakly in my arms, his blood soaking my shirt, his breath rattling. What the hell is going on? He croaked, his voice faint, nearly drowned by the chaos echoing through the maze. I didn't have an answer. The air was thick with the sound of glass cracking, of reflections shrieking and scraping their claws against the mirrors. Marcus's screams echoed behind us, fading into the relentless laughter of stitched-mouthed doubles. I wanted to turn back. I wanted to help him. But survival screamed louder than guilt. The Lily in the mirror pressed her palm flat against the surface, and her lips formed the words again, "It's not me out there. It's not me with you." For a moment, I thought Lily would collapse right there, her knees trembling, her eyes darting between her reflection and her own hands as though she couldn't tell which of them was real. Then she reached forward, slowly, shakily, her fingertips brushing against the dark glass. The instant she made contact, the carnival roared. Every mirror in the maze shattered at once. The sound was deafening, an explosion of shrieks and breaking glass that sent razor-sharp shards raining in all directions. The doubles screamed in unison, their mouths tearing wider, their bodies twisting into grotesque shapes as though touching reality itself was killing them. The ground quaked violently, the mirrored floor cracking beneath us. I clutched Tyler tighter, shielding him from the glass, but when I looked up again, the other Lily was no longer just behind the glass. She was stepping through. Her body slid from the black mirror as though she were pushing through a thick membrane, her skin slick with some dark, oily fluid that dripped to the ground and evaporated into smoke. Her eyes locked on Lily's, and for a long, frozen moment the two of them just stared at each other, mirror images, identical in every feature, yet completely opposite in their presence. The Lily who'd been with us all night, the one sobbing, trembling, clutching at me like she might shatter, looked suddenly small, fragile, like a candle flickering in a storm. The Lily from the mirror, however, radiated a strange kind of authority. Her face was calm, her breathing steady, her gaze unflinching. She was the Lily who belonged here, the one the carnival recognized. And then she spoke. "You shouldn't have brought her here," Mirror Lily said, her voice low, steady, carrying the weight of something ancient. She wasn't speaking to herself. She was speaking to me. I froze, my mouth opening but no words forming. The real Lily, if she was real, clutched my arm, shaking her head frantically. "Don't listen. Don't trust her. That's not me. That's not me." But the words cut deep. They dug at the memory of the whisper we'd heard earlier, "One of you doesn't belong." The doubles that hadn't fully dissolved now began to crawl across the floor, broken, twitching, dragging themselves forward with jerking, unnatural movements. They weren't attacking anymore. They weren't hunting. They were recoiling from Mirror Lily. Like they feared her. "Please," the mirror version whispered again, her voice breaking for the first time, a note of desperation sliding through. "Please, get her away from me. She's not supposed to exist." The fragile Lily let out a choked sob, collapsing to the ground. Her hands dug into her hair, her nails scraping her scalp as though she wanted to peel herself away. "No! Don't believe her. I'm me, I swear." Tyler groaned, half-conscious, his blood pooling against my chest. "Pick one," he mumbled deliriously. "Only, one's real." The floor buckled violently, nearly throwing us off balance. Cracks split across the ground, glowing with the same eerie red light that had marked the exit. The carnival itself was forcing a decision, pushing us towards something inevitable. Behind us, Marcus's scream cut through the chaos one last time, raw and horrifyingly final. Then silence. A silence so heavy it drowned out even the distant laughter. I turned back to the two Lilies, one trembling, broken, begging me with wide, tear-streaked eyes, the other standing calm, confident, almost regal in the way the shadows bent around her. Both identical. Both claiming to be real. And yet the carnival demanded one truth: one could stay, and one had to be given up. The cracked ground split wider, the red light spilling up in beams, illuminating the two of them. They looked at me in unison, voices overlapping into a single, sickening harmony. "Choose." The ground beneath us groaned like something alive, splintering open with jagged cracks that glowed red, casting the shattered maze in a hellish light. The walls of fractured mirrors still leaned precariously, reflecting infinite shards of our terror, distorted pieces of Tyler bleeding out in my arms, of my pale face twisted in panic, of Lily multiplied into endless versions of herself, each one staring, screaming, begging. Some mirrored fragments didn't even match reality anymore. They showed Lily laughing coldly, Lily standing still while we ran, Lily already gone. The two Lilies stood before me, one trembling and broken, curled into herself on the floor, the other rising tall and steady, her expression carved from calm certainty. Both identical, yet everything about their presence screamed conflict. One was fragile, human, drowning in fear. The other radiated something older, like she was part of this place, her voice threaded with a weight I couldn't describe. In the carnival, the very bones of this cursed place demanded resolution. The words still echoed, reverberating from every broken shard of glass, choose. I clutched Tyler tighter as his blood seeped warm into my shirt. His breath came in shallow rattles, his lips pale and trembling. If you don't, she'll decide for you," he whispered hoarsely, each word nearly lost under the quake. "This place, it always feeds." Lily, the one I had been with since we entered, the one sobbing in the dirt, lifted her face to me, streaked with tears, her lips trembling. "It's me. I swear to God, it's me," she choked out, reaching toward me with desperate hands. Her fingers shook so violently I thought they might snap. "Please, don't leave me here." But the other Lily, the one from the mirror, the one who had clawed her way through slick darkness, only tilted her head, calm eyes never leaving mine. "She's not lying," she said. "She believes she's real. That's what makes this harder. But she isn't supposed to exist. You know it. Deep down, you've felt it since the tickets." I staggered, almost dropping Tyler as my head spun with her words. My mind clawed at memories, small inconsistencies I hadn't dared think about. The way Lily had been the one to find the entrance no one else saw. The way she seemed to always know which direction to take in the maze, as though she had been here before. The way the tickets had already had our names printed, including hers. And yet, I remembered her laugh, the feel of her hand clutching mine when the doubles attacked, the warmth of her fear as real as my own. How could she not be real? The carnival groaned again, louder, more impatient. The ground split wider, beams of red light spiraling into the air like searchlights. I realized with a sick drop in my stomach, it wasn't just asking for a choice. It was hungry for it. Behind us, a faint echo of Marcus's scream still lingered, but distorted now, stretched into laughter. The stitched-mouthed doubles had claimed him. The carnival had devoured his existence without hesitation. If I hesitated now, Tyler would be next. Maybe all of us. "I can prove it," Fragile Lily said suddenly, her voice cracking through the thick, suffocating silence. She scrambled forward on her knees, her wide eyes frantic, her hands shaking as she grabbed my arm. "Do you remember the night at the lake? When we skipped stones, just you and me? You told me about your dad, about how he left. I held your hand when you cried. That was real. That was us." Her words sliced through me like glass. I remembered that night. I remembered the quiet water, the ache in my chest, her hand warm against mine. My throat tightened. But Mirror Lily only stepped closer, her presence commanding, unwavering. "Do you remember the same night?" she asked, her voice steady, unflinching. "Because it didn't happen. Not here." The carnival made that memory for her. It stitched her from pieces of you, from your grief, from what you needed. That's why she feels so real. She's a mask it gave you. The fragile Lily let out a guttural sob, collapsing against me, clinging desperately. "Don't listen to her. Please, don't let her take me. I'm real, I swear it. I'm me." The ground beneath us split again, so wide now I could see movement in the crimson light, shadows writhing, arms reaching, claws scraping upward like the earth itself wanted to drag someone screaming below. "Choose," both Lilies said again, but this time their voices weren't in unison, they were a cacophony. One pleading, one commanding. One drenched in desperation, the other in inevitability. Tyler coughed violently, blood splattering across his lips, his fading eyes fluttering open just enough to meet mine. If you pick wrong," he whispered, voice breaking. "The carnival won't stop. It'll eat us all." I was trembling, my knees threatening to give, the weight of Tyler in my arms pulling me down. My chest heaved with shallow breaths, and I felt the carnival pressing closer, suffocating, demanding. My mind screamed for escape, but there was none, not until I obeyed. And then I realized the truth in Tyler's words: the choice wasn't about right or wrong. It wasn't even about survival. The carnival didn't care. It wanted a sacrifice. It wanted blood. It wanted me to decide who belonged, and who was just another mask to be ripped away. The trembling Lily buried her face into my shoulder, sobbing, clutching me as though I were the only anchor she had left. The steady Lily stood with her head high, eyes burning with something that looked almost like pity. And the ground kept splitting wider, the crimson glow clawing closer, the shadows reaching higher, the carnival demanding, hungry. Someone had to go. Someone had to be given to the carnival. And it was me who had to decide. The air grew thicker, suffocating, as though the carnival itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to decide. Every mirror shard around us vibrated like glass strings on the verge of shattering, and through their reflections I could see 1,000 versions of me, each one holding Tyler's dying body, each one facing two Lilies, each one trembling, paralyzed by the same unbearable choice. None of them moved. None of them spoke. All of them were trapped. The trembling Lily clung to me so tightly her nails bit into my arm. Her body was ice cold, shuddering, but her tears were hot against my neck. "Please," she whispered over and over, her words stuttering through sobs. "Please don't let her take me. Please don't let me go." Her desperation was a physical weight crushing down on me, making it nearly impossible to breathe. The steady Lily, however, stood just beyond the jagged cracks glowing at our feet, her silhouette painted in fire-red light from below. She didn't move, didn't tremble, didn't beg. Her hands were loose at her sides, her posture unnervingly calm, like someone who had been through this before and already knew the outcome. "The longer you wait," she said softly, her voice cutting through the chaos with chilling clarity, "the more the carnival eats away at him." She nodded at Tyler, his breath shallow and rattling, his blood seeping out faster than my trembling hands could hold back. "You've already lost Marcus. Are you willing to lose him too?" Her words struck me hard, and I faltered, lowering my eyes to Tyler. His skin was ashen, his lips almost blue. He tried to speak again, his voice cracked and faint, nearly drowned by the rumbling earth. "She's right, you don't have time." His gaze flicked weakly between the two Lilies, though I couldn't tell which one he meant. "Pick, or the carnival picks you." The carnival itself seemed to agree. The ground heaved, splitting with a violent crack as an entire slab of mirrored wall collapsed inward, crashing into the glowing pit below. From the abyss rose a swell of shadows, twisting arms, clawed hands, leering faces that weren't quite human, yet not entirely monstrous. Their mouths opened wide, revealing teeth like broken glass, and from them erupted a sound like laughter layered over screams, as though joy and agony had become one hideous chorus. The fragile Lily flinched, pressing her face into me, shaking uncontrollably. "Don't look at them. Don't let them take me," she begged. "I don't want to die here. I don't want to disappear." The steady Lily didn't flinch. She met the shadow's approach with a steady, unnerving gaze, her expression almost resigned. "They're waiting," she murmured, her tone firm, almost teacher-like. "They'll drag all of us down if you don't give them what they came for. They've already chosen the sacrifice, you just have to deliver it." Her calmness made my stomach twist. She was too certain, too unshaken, and that alone made me wonder if she belonged to the carnival more than she belonged to me. But then, her words about Marcus rang in my ears. He had screamed and vanished into the doubles, leaving nothing behind but the echo of his terror. Maybe he hadn't chosen. Maybe that was why he had been taken. Maybe I had no choice at all. Why me? The question tumbled out before I could stop it, my voice hoarse, breaking. My throat burned from the metallic tang of Tyler's blood, from the weight of the air pressing in. Why do I have to decide? The shadows roared in unison, their many voices forming one single word that shattered across the mirrors like thunder, because you hold the ticket. I froze, my mind slamming back to the very beginning, the rusted booth, the old yellowed paper pressed into my palm. My name had been there before I ever touched it. My name had been waiting. I realized then that I wasn't just trapped here. I wasn't just another victim. I was the one the carnival had chosen to play its game. The fragile Lily sobbed harder, gripping my face between her shaking hands, her eyes bloodshot and wide. Please. Please don't do this to me. You know me. You know me. But the steady Lily stepped closer, into the glow, her face illuminated with both fire and shadow. For the first time, her voice faltered, trembling with something that wasn't fear but sorrow. If you don't send her back, the carnival will never let go of any of us. It isn't mercy, it's survival. And suddenly, the mirrors around me reflected not 2 lilies, but dozens, hundreds. Each mirror showed a version of the fragile Lily begging, sobbing, clawing to exist. Each mirror showed the steady Lily standing tall, resigned, watching me. The reflections leaned forward as though pressing against the glass, desperate for my verdict. The ground convulsed, the pit widening further until the edges of the maze were crumbling inward, vanishing into the abyss. The claws of the shadows reached higher, closer, grasping at the fragile Lily's hair, at the steady Lily's ankles, at my hands locked around Tyler. And I knew, if I didn't choose now, the carnival would decide for me. Tyler coughed violently in my arms, his voice rasping one final time, choose. Or we're all gone. His head fell weakly against my shoulder. I squeezed my eyes shut, my breath coming in ragged sobs. My heart thundered against my ribs, threatening to split open. The fragile Lily's screams pierced into my skull, the steady Lily's silence pressed against my bones, the shadows' laughter roared from below. And then, I opened my eyes. I reached out. I made my choice. The carnival roared, triumphant. The moment my hand stretched out, whether it was trembling with desperation or conviction, I still don't know, the carnival responded. The ground beneath us gave a thunderous shudder, so violent it rattled the bones inside my chest. The mirrors surrounding me cracked like brittle ice, their fractures racing upward in jagged lightning patterns until whole panels shattered at once, raining glass shards that somehow hung mid-air, suspended, glinting in the unnatural glow of the pit. My choice had been made, and the carnival, whatever monstrous entity it truly was satisfied. The fragile Lily's scream tore through the air, raw and piercing, the kind of sound that lodges itself inside your skull and never leaves. She clawed at me, at the air, at reality itself, as if she could fight her way back into existence. Her nails left trails of blood on my arms, her tears smeared across my shirt. No! No, please! Don't let them take me. I'm real. I'm real. You know me, you love me, you can't let me go. The shadows surged upward as if her cries were a beacon. Dozens of blackened hands erupted from the pit, long and skeletal, their fingers bending in directions no human joints should bend. They wrapped around her wrists, her ankles, her waist. She writhed and kicked, screaming louder, her body jerking violently as they began to pull her downward. I tried not to watch. God, I tried. But my eyes betrayed me. The fragile Lily's face contorted into something beyond terror. It was betrayal, it was heartbreak, it was the agony of someone ripped from reality. Her eyes locked on mine in the final moments, and I swear I felt her pain burning into my soul, etching itself into me like a brand. Her mouth opened wide, screaming my name, not in anger but in the desperate plea of someone who had only wanted to exist. And then, she was gone. Dragged into the churning abyss, swallowed whole by the carnival's gaping maw. Her voice cut off mid-scream, leaving only silence. The silence was worse than the screaming. I collapsed to my knees, shaking violently, my hands soaked in Tyler's blood, my ears ringing with the absence of her cries. My chest heaved with sobs I didn't even realize were spilling out, but I wasn't crying for her alone. I was crying for me, for Tyler, for Marcus, for all of us who had ever set foot inside this carnival and been forced to play its sick games. And then I felt it. The air shifted, heavy but no longer suffocating. The shadows recoiled, slinking back into the pit with a satisfied hiss, their claws dripping with whatever remained of her essence. The ground steadied. The suspended shards of glass fell gently to the floor, clinking together like wind chimes instead of weapons. The carnival was calm. I looked up, and the steady Lily was still there. Her eyes were wet now, though she hadn't shed a tear until that moment. She looked at me with something between pity and gratitude, though it wasn't clear which one weighed heavier. "You did it," she whispered, her voice breaking just slightly. "You made the choice. You free us from her." Her. The word landed like a hammer blow. Not me. Not us. Her. I staggered back a little, horror rising in me like bile. My chest burned as I stared at the girl standing before me, the one who hadn't been dragged into the pit. She was Lily, or at least, she looked like her, sounded like her. But the thought clawed at my brain like a splinter: what if I chose wrong? What if the fragile Lily had been the real one all along? What if her begging hadn't been weakness, but truth? What if this steady, composed Lily was the carnival's mask, the imposter it wanted me to preserve? The weight of the choice crushed me in a way the carnival itself never could. Tyler groaned in my arms, dragging me back from the spiral. His face was pale, his breath shallow, but his eyes fluttered open enough to meet mine. You chose?" His voice cracked like broken glass, but in it was a faint spark, as though he wanted to believe there was hope. I think so," I stammered, though even as I said it, I didn't believe it. My voice was trembling, hollow, like I was already speaking from a grave. The steady Lily knelt beside us, her movements precise, deliberate, as though she'd been waiting for this moment. She pressed her hand gently over Tyler's wound, and to my shock, the bleeding slowed. Not stopped, not healed, but lessened. His ragged breaths grew just a little steadier. "The carnival took what it wanted," she murmured. "It will let us go now." Her certainty chilled me more than anything else. Because the carnival didn't let people go. Not Marcus. Not the fragile Lily. Not anyone whose name had been printed on that cursed ticket. And yet here she was, calm, composed, promising freedom. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But somewhere deep in my gut, gnawing like a parasite, the doubt remained. The mirrors around us flickered one final time, the cracks spreading wide until they split open, revealing not reflections but corridors. The glass melted away like water, leaving dark paths lit faintly by the distant glow of carnival lights. Calliope music drifted in faintly, warbling and distorted, as though the rides outside still spun and the clowns still laughed. The steady Lily stood and extended her hand to me. "It's over. Let's go." I stared at her hand, my body frozen, every nerve screaming against the idea of taking it. Behind her, Tyler stirred weakly, whispering, We can leave?" The word leave echoed in my skull. But as I reached for her hand, or maybe hesitated just an inch too long, I noticed something. The shadows had disappeared into the pit. The ground had steadied. But the mirrors still watched. Each surface showed us standing there, me, Tyler, Lily. But in one of the shards still clinging stubbornly to its frame, I swore I saw something different. The fragile Lily's face. Mouth open. Eyes wide. Still screaming silently for me. And then the shard fell, shattering into dust. The mirror shard that fell and shattered into dust lingered in my mind like a curse. I couldn't shake the image, those wide eyes, that silent scream frozen in the fragile Lily's face, as if she hadn't truly been swallowed by the pit, but was still there, trapped somewhere beyond reach. My heart hammered against my ribs, so violently it felt like it might split open. The carnival had tricked us at every turn, and I realized in that moment, I could never be sure if my decision had been the right one. Still, the steady Lily stood in front of me, patient, unblinking, her hand outstretched like a savior offering deliverance. Tyler shifted weakly against my shoulder, whispering words that barely carried. We can't stay here. Please, we have to go. His blood stained my hands, sticky and cold, a constant reminder of how little time we had left. If this was a lie, if this was a trap, I couldn't tell him. I couldn't take away his last fragment of hope. I took Lily's hand. The instant our palms touched, the carnival changed. The flickering mirrors dissolved completely, melting into nothingness, leaving only a long, winding corridor of striped tents and carnival banners that stretched far ahead. The calliope music grew louder, echoing with a mocking cheerfulness, as though celebrating my choice. The scent of burnt sugar and grease drifted faintly, the smell of carnival food long since rotted but somehow still fresh in memory. Every step forward felt wrong, yet the path behind us had already vanished. As we walked, I noticed something unsettling. The rides outside were running again. The Ferris wheel turned lazily, its carts lit by flickering bulbs that sparked and hissed. The carousel spun slowly, the painted horses rising and falling, their glassy eyes glistening with something that wasn't paint. Even the roller coaster rattled along its rusted tracks, empty cars clattering like bones in the wind. Yet no laughter filled the air. No screams. No children. No audience. The carnival was alive, but it was only for us. Tyler coughed violently, spitting blood onto the dirt path, and his weight sagged heavier against me. My knees buckled with the effort of carrying him, but I pressed forward, guided by Lily's unyielding stride. She didn't once glance at him, didn't once falter. Her focus was fixed entirely ahead, toward a towering striped tent at the path's end. Its peak scraped the sky, its fabric billowing in a wind that didn't touch us. The big top. I don't know why, but I knew the carnival wouldn't let us go until we went inside. When we reached the entrance, Lily pushed aside the flaps, revealing darkness so absolute it seemed to swallow the dim glow from outside. She stepped in first, and I followed, dragging Tyler behind me. The instant we crossed the threshold, the flaps snapped shut, sealing us in. And then, lights. 1,000 bulbs snapped on at once, flooding the tent with blinding brilliance. Spotlights flared, sweeping across rows of empty bleachers that rose high into the shadows. A ringmaster's stage gleamed in the center, crimson curtains swaying, ropes and trapeze swings dangling above like nooses. The silence was deafening until the calliope music roared again, so loud it rattled my teeth. Then I saw them. The audience. Not living people, but faces. Dozens, hundreds of faces filling every seat in the stands. Pale, unmoving, waxen figures dressed in carnival garb. Their glassy eyes stared downward, unblinking, their mouths stretched into grotesque grins that seemed painted on. And as the lights blazed brighter, I realized I recognized some of them. Marcus. The girl who had screamed when the roller coaster derailed. The man we had glimpsed at the ticket booth when we first arrived. All of them, frozen as spectators, condemned to watch whatever show the carnival demanded. And then the curtains on the central stage parted. The figure that emerged was tall, draped in a red and gold tailcoat, a top hat perched atop its head. But its face, God, its face, wasn't human. It was a swirling mass of shadows, featureless save for 2 gleaming white eyes and a grin carved wider than any mouth should stretch. The carnival had a master. It always had. The ringmaster. Ladies and gentlemen. The voice boomed, echoing around the tent, rattling the bleachers, making Tyler flinch in my arms. What a performance we've witnessed tonight. The games, the choices, the tragedy, the heartbreak, oh, what a story you've spun for us. The waxen audience erupted in thunderous applause, though none of their faces moved. The sound rattled like hollow bones clapping together. My legs trembled. The steady Lily stood tall beside me, unafraid, as though this was the moment she had been waiting for all along. The ringmaster's grin widened, its gaze locking directly on me. But every show must end. And every ticket must be claimed. At his words, a ticket materialized in my free hand, the paper curling like old parchment. I didn't need to look, I already knew. My name was printed on it, bold and unmistakable. What does it mean? I choked out, my throat raw. The ringmaster's laughter boomed, filling every corner of the tent. It means, dear boy, that you never bought a ticket to leave. You bought a ticket to belong. And belong you shall. I felt the paper burn against my palm, searing my skin until I screamed. The letters on it glowed white-hot, branding themselves into me, crawling up my arm like veins of fire. Tyler groaned weakly, reaching for me, but his voice was too faint to stop what was happening. I dropped to my knees, clutching my arm, the brand burrowing deeper, into my blood, my bones, my soul. Around us, the carnival roared to life, the rides spinning faster, the lights blazing hotter, the music crescendoing into chaos. And then Lily spoke. But not the Lily I knew. Her voice dropped, layered with something inhuman, something that rattled in my skull. You chose me. You chose correctly. And now, you'll stand beside me. I looked up in horror as her face began to change. The steady composure cracked, her skin splitting into shadow, her eyes glowing like embers. She wasn't Lily at all. She never had been. She was the carnival's chosen vessel, its anchor in the shape of someone I loved. The fragile Lily, the one I had damned to the pit, had been the real one all along. My scream joined Tyler's as the shadows surged from her body, wrapping around me, binding me to the floor of the big top. The waxen audience clapped harder, the ringmaster's laughter shook the heavens, and the carnival consumed me whole. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed everything was my ticket fluttering in the air, landing neatly in Lily's outstretched hand. And on it, beneath my name, new words had appeared. Admit 1. No exits.